like to open by saying no 7-year-olds were harmed in the making of this talk, and a lot of the things I'm about to say have been greatly exaggerated for comedic effect, okay? My daughter was diagnosed on the autism spectrum when she was 3 years old. She was actually diagnosed with something called pervasive development disorder, not otherwise specified, meaning she exhibits some, but not all of the characteristics of an autistic person. She was essentially developmentally delayed, primarily in her speech. She could not articulate a full sentence or voice an observation or ask a question until she was about 5 years old. She is now 7 and she attends a regular public school due primarily to speech, occupational, and behavioral therapies. I believe this time of essentially being a mute behooved her in that she's very heedful, she's an incredible listener, she's very observant in ways that just awe me. So, whoops, the person that I parent her with, oftentimes against, her father is I'm gonna do this properly. He is a soldier, with diplomacy, Christian, conservative, Republican, straight-white American male, okay, here's him. I play the Red Hot Chili Peppers on the radio and tell dick jokes at nightclubs. So clearly, he and I are two very different individuals. However, we are all united in one common goal, and that is to ensure that our little prodigy does not grow up to be a fucking asshole. When my generation was being brought up, I guess because of generations previous where there had been a lot of abuse and neglect, some, we'll call them a free spirit, decided that we were being too hard on our kids. And so we decided there shouldn't be as much boundaries, not as many rules. And this lax style of parenting kind of produced a lot of humans that are, breastfeeding until their SATs are over, and they're not being held accountable for breaking the rules or breaking the law. I was brought up in something I like to call the church of don't be a jerk. If I had to liken it to a religion, it's kind of like Buddhism, do unto others as you have done unto you, blah, 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 blah. Clearly, I'm very Zen. But, despite appearances and what you may have heard, as a result of my upbringing, I'm a fairly responsible, productive, communicative citizen of the world. And, we all want our kids to succeed, right? We can agree on that. I would hope so. Yeah. Sup, yeah. And we want to see them thrive. We want to see them make friendships. We want to see them assert themselves when it's appropriate, right? This is something that we want for the children that we bring into the world. And I plan to make this my child's reality by being real with her, by comparing and contrasting her positive and negative behaviors, by showing her the way, so that when she goes out into the world, she's not a dickhead. So that doesn't go on my tab or my permanent record. I'm not going down for her like that, right? People that circumvent their children's terrible behavior are the kind of people who produce other people who write checks in busy grocery stores, who pull out in front of you at the last minute and go 10 miles under the speed limit. Why would you want to be responsible for producing that kind of human? Nobody likes that guy. Don't be an asshole factory. Level with your kids. This is probably a good time to tell you that my daughter is the light of my life. She is the center of my world. She is all that is best in me. She's everything. She's wonderful, but she's also loved and supported and encouraged. However, I am not opposed to taking a knee and saying, listen here, you little shit. This is an itemized list as to why that behavior was completely unacceptable, and another as to why you are never going to do that again. And I know that there's more to parenting than just giving them the business. You also have to nurture their curiosities and go on adventures and show them affection and check under the bed for monsters and friend them on Facebook and comment on every single post with your caps lock on. All caps, all the time. So people want to know, is my no-nonsense approach to parenting working out for me and my kid? So here is a completely unorthodox example of how she's shaping out. When she was in kindergarten, she was on the playground. She noticed a bully, a 5th grader, spitting on and shoving a kid that was in her class, a kindergartner. So she looks around for an authority figure, a teacher, a yard duty, what have you, and there's no one in sight. So she decides that she's going to help out, and she inserts herself between the victim and the bully, whose parents really could have benefited from this talk, let's just face it. So the kid decides to come at her, which is stupid because my child is incredibly compassionate and friendly. But you don't mess with her. I've taught her that. So the bully comes at my kid and she knocks him to the ground and says simply, "Don't be a dickhead." This may have actually been her first full sentence. Should she have called him a dickhead? Probably not, and that's a little bit on me. But she saw an injustice and no one to stop it, so she inserted herself with a very direct and indisputable message: don't be a dickhead. And yes, we had a conversation about name calling, but then we got pizza, playground justice. Whatever language you use to talk to your children, talk to your children. Be real with them. Point out when they're doing something wrong so they can make the right decisions. That being said, I've never been a fan of physical discipline. I'm not here to judge. I'm just not a fan of the spankings and the things. In fact, what I am a fan of is actually parenting your child so that you raise a positive, self-aware human that nobody avoids at the water cooler. You know what I'm saying? Do not be responsible for raising a dickhead.